Too many manual assignments, no standardized processes around user management, and no clear audit trail. So everything we're going to talk about today goes back to that audit trail. Who has access to what? Why do they have that access? So this is what we're here to solve and talk about today. So what does good actually look like? First, and this goes down into these 4 levels you see here up on the screen, but first, your access model needs to scale. This isn't something that works when you have 50 users and breaks when you scale up to 500. It needs to work great at 50, and it needs to work even better when you're at 500 or 1,000 users. Second, access should be persona-based. So think about when I go back and work with all these different banks, we have access for commercial bankers, we have access for mortgage officers, we have access for wealth and asset management and retail. So it breaks across those personas because that's when it becomes scalable. Third is automation. So the access should follow the user when they join the organization, when they transfer to different roles, and then when they leave, we need to make sure that's all stripped away from them. And finally, audit ready by design. I'm constantly facing audits with the different organizations we face. They can come knock on the door any day they want and say, show me the access levels, who has access, why do they have access, when did this all change? And I need to be able to provide that pretty darn quickly. So all of this falls into place and makes this the scalable operation that user access should be. So a lot of you're in Salesforce every day, you know how this access actually works. But let's break it down if you have any misunderstanding of it. First is the org level. Who has access to my org? When do they get access? Where can they log in from? But then once they get into my org, we have the object level. So those records they see, what can they do on it? What can they edit? What can they view? What fields do they have access to? And then we have our record level security. This is something I'm constantly facing every day to where when you're working with a bank, you have all these financial accounts, maybe employee accounts, only certain people should be able to see those. But then wealth accounts should only be seen by wealth. So that record level security, who can share or who can see what is shared with them and why? And finally, field level. So once they get into the org, what objects do they have access to? Those records that they can see, what individual fields can they see and what can they edit? So it all breaks down into that. If you design cleanly across those 4 layers, everything else becomes easier for you. If you don't, that's where the overlap, that's where confusion, and that's where audit issues constantly start to become a major issue for you. So this is one of the biggest mistakes I see, overloading the profiles. I've been in orgs where there's 2 profiles, I've been in orgs where there's over 200, and I'm like, why do we have 200 profiles? This is a mess. We got to clean this up. We also know Salesforce is eventually going to start to move away from profiles. That's already been announced. It keeps getting pushed back, so I highly recommend you put the foundation in place today that when that does become real life, that it's an easy transition for you. Profiles should be minimal. Think login rules, record types, baseline access, that's it. And there needs to be very few. All functional access that they have and what they do should be driven by permission sets. So getting into that permission set model. And why is that? It's because these are modular, they're reusable, and they're much easier to audit. So the goal here is simple. A profile change should be rare. The permission set change is what should be routine. So if you're going into a project, you need to add a new object or you need to add a couple fields, it's easy to just go into that one permission set, make that change, and that permission set's already applied to who should have that access. There's no major rework that needs to take place. When I walk into a project, one of the things I always go into is the right design pattern and how we get there. Permission sets themselves are task-based. They're very specific across the organization. Things like edit accounts, run reports, view financial accounts, edit leads, transfer leads. There's permission sets already out there for all of those. Permission set groups, as we said at the beginning, those are the persona-based groupings, the bundles of permissions that people should have. And I have it up there, commercial bankers, mortgage lenders, retail officers, managers. There should be groups already set up for all of those that have those permission sets, those bundles that they should have. So instead of assigning 10 things manually, you assign one group, and this makes the onboarding faster, access consistent, and cleanup much easier once you get into those projects and you don't have to rework everything. So even with good design, things break. They break down operationally. Manual assignments start to creep in. You have onboarding access and onboarding functions that are inconsistent, and access doesn't get removed when people change roles. That's something I'm constantly facing and seeing, is where somebody transferred roles and those permissions, those queue assignments that they had were never revoked. They just added on the new access, and all of a sudden this person's a super user and nobody knew about it in the organization. So when audit times comes, there's no clear history of who got what and why they got it, which just, Jane Smith changed roles and now she has all these different permission sets when she shouldn't. This is where most orgs struggle. It's not in design, but it's in the execution of who has access to what and why. That's where user access policies come in. So again, I saw a couple hands pop up when I asked about user access policies and who's using these. So this came about, it was beta for a while, and then in summer 24, it became GA. And every org I walk into when we introduce these and set these up, they're like, why didn't I know about this earlier? It is one of the most powerful features in Salesforce, and I highly, highly recommend everybody start using it. So what this does, it automates permission assignments based on user criteria, such as role, their profile, their department, their location, their manager. It's very, very simple to set these up. What goes into planning is just documenting everything. Who has access to what and why, which we should already have. So instead of assigning permissions manually, you define the rules and everything is automated from there. And it also includes queues, permission set groups, permission set licenses, all automated once you set up that criteria and put them into play. So onboarding, role changes, offboarding are all handled automatically, and it has that full audit history behind it that you can show anybody, well, here's when the access changed, here's why it changed, because it met this criteria. So let's get into user access policies, and this is where it's really going to start to click for everybody. I'm going to show you how a policy is created, how simple it is, how it triggers, how the access gets automatically assigned in real time, and I want you to pay attention to two things. Again, how simple it is and the audit history. The audit history is one of the things that I love the most about it. This is what makes this scalable. So I'm in just a regular old Trailhead org here, and I have some things set up that you'll see when we go into it. But the first thing I want to show is how do you enable user access policies? So making sure I'm up there on the screen. But just typing in user, and you'll see it here, user access policies. But the first thing you actually want to do is in user management. User management settings have a lot of information in here. So scrolling down, we have user access policies. All you do is toggle that on. Now you have user access policies enabled. Now we got to go through and set them up. So clicking over here on user access policies, you'll see that I have several in here already set up. And the way they work, they're like lead assignment rules. So it's going to go through when you create or edit a user, it's going to go down in order, and the first one, it meets that criteria, that's what it's going to set up for you. So you want to be very delicate and diligent about what order you put these in. So I have them in here management first, because if they're a manager, this is what they have, and if they're not in one of these branches, it's going to pass that up and it's going to hit that criteria. And the last one I have is if we deactivate a user. If the user gets deactivated, strip everything away. So going up here, if I wanted to create a new user access policy, it's as simple as clicking a button. I put in the policy name, the order I want it to run in, and then a description. As with everything in Salesforce, please make sure you're putting in a pretty good description of what's happening here. So I already set one up, so I don't have to name it for you and everything. I have my South Branch Manager permissions. And if I scroll over here, you can see the status if it's active or in design still. So I have my South Branch Manager. So scrolling down here, I have the user criteria, I have the actions, and I have the recent changes. Up here at the top, this is your criteria. So the first thing you want to do at the top is you're going to define that criteria. Number one, you can have a profile, so I have it as a standard user, but I also know I want it to be the role South Branch Manager. So I scroll down the role, equals, and I just start typing in South, it'll pop up, South Branch. So if a user is created or edited that's in the South Branch and they're a standard user, and then we have additional fields. You can add up to 10 additional fields on this. So I have it that if they're active and they're a manager, that's when I want this to run. Next is where you define all the actions. So if a user's created or edited their South branch, they're a manager, I want it to revoke all of this. I want to make sure they're not in this permission set group of the other branches, and I want to make sure they're not in the other queues. So those are revoked. Then what we need to do, you can add actions down here. I'm going to add 3. So what we're going to do here is we're going to grant 3 things. We're going to grant a permission set group, and then also a queue. And all of them are pretty much going to be the same here. So go down to queue, and they're all south. All you have to do is type it in. I don't know why it's not. There it goes. Wasn't thinking there for a second. Oh, wait. This is the manager. Demo fail. So I need to go down to the manager permission set because managers at these places have extended permissions. And then I want to give them the South Branch permission set group. And finally, I want to add them to the South Branch queue. From there, I just click Save. And now we have here, we can see the user criteria, the actions it's going to take when it's going to run, and also we have the audit trail of when it recently ran. But I want to show you 2 things. Number 1 with this, you can apply it one time. So once you have it created, you can look and say, is there anybody out here that meets this criteria that this isn't assigned to yet? And what'd you know? I have Julie Hill here. So I'm going to go ahead and click Apply. And that one time, it's going to give me a summary of all the changes that just happened with Julie. But what I like the most is automating this. When you click Automate, you can run it when a user's created, updated, or anytime somebody's created or updated, which is what I prefer. But you may have policies in place that only when somebody's activated do we want to do these things. You can do that. So we're going to activate it. Now let's see this in action real quick. So I know that William Smith over here just got promoted. William Smith with the North branch, but he just got promoted to be the manager of the South branch. Actually, let me cancel this real quick just to show you. So right now, he has the permission set of compliant data sharing. The permission set group is North branch, and his queue is a North branch queue. But as soon as William has that edit take place, where his role is changed, South branch, and he's also a manager here. Upon save, and I do a quick refresh. Now he has 2, because I didn't take away compliant data sharing. He's a manager, he's in the permission set group of South branch, and it automatically moved his queue. And again, you can do this with public groups, you can add permission set licenses, and it's going to keep growing as Salesforce continues to develop user access policies. But now that that's done, with the audit trail behind it, I can jump back over to the South Branch Manager. And if somebody questions, like, what has happened? Is this ran recently? Who has access to what? I can go over here and look at all the times it ran recently. So the automated process, because all the update did was take place and it ran automatically. And then the manual one that I applied to all users. But when you click into it, it's going to give you what happened. So permissions that were granted and the permission set group that was revoked. So it gives you that full audit trail behind everything. All right. So that's just a quick overview of user access policies. Again, even the manual changing of everybody, if you have integration or user provisioning running and every night it's updating people that got promoted, now as an admin, you don't have to go in after the fact and like, all right, so-and-so got promoted, there's a task out here for me, I got to go do all this. It automates the entire process, keeps it clean, keeps it auditable. So we're going to round out here with a couple best practices and other things that I'd like to recommend to everybody as you do this. So just a few guardrails to keep your permissions working long term. Make sure you're using permission sets and permission set groups. If you're still in that profile first model, start to document your process. How are we going to get away from that? Because it's coming. Eventually, it's going to be the permission set group only led model. Put that foundation in place now. It's going to make things so much easier on you. Automate wherever possible, especially onboarding and role changes. Enough of the manual assignments and going through and have to do this manually. Document your access model so it's clear, it's repeatable. And most importantly, regular reviews, especially if you're in regulated industries. Schedule yourself at least quarterly, if not monthly, to review everything. I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't say I use AI myself to help me with things. So think about how much it takes you, if you're an admin and someone says, I can't access this field, I can't see this record, and you're going through, you're like, is it page layouts, is it this? And sometimes it takes you an hour or more, and eventually you'll figure it out. But with something like Sweep, I use Sweep every day for a lot of things, but a lot of times it's for this user access and user management. So you can go in there with the conversational AI bot, and there is a free version of it that you can start to get your hands around and utilize, that you can ask that questions. And where it really becomes powerful is with that audit and compliance. It's very powerful with asking like, who has access to this? It creates the reports for you. It's a very powerful tool. I highly recommend you step back here and check them out if you have time, but it's something that I use to document orgs and to get into permission and access management. So some of your key takeaways, what I want you to walk away with today. Permissions, they're not just technical. They're foundational to your security and the trust of your org. Manual access assignments, they don't scale. It used to be the case that was the only option. Automate this as much as you can. User access policies give you a way and an avenue to do that, so make sure you're starting to jump in, document your processes, and put those user access policies in place. And if you design with groups and repeatability in mind, you'll save yourself a lot of headaches down the road. Because it may work now with 50 users, but once you scale to 500 or 1,000, it's going to be very time consuming and almost impossible to keep everything in place. So what's next? Please jump into Trailhead. There's tons of information in there, and Trailhead and the admin page around user access policies. I'll be around if you have questions about how I approach different things, how I approach these models if I have 50 users or if I'm in orgs of 10,000 plus. But it's one way to do it, and it's going to start to scale as you grow your organization. But again, thank you all for taking time to join my session today. I hope you enjoy the rest of TDX, and hopefully you get to the concert tonight as well. Thank you all.